We all live in the same country, a secular country, a country where everyone is the same yet so beautifully different. But do we truly understand each other's unique differences, their style, their beliefs, their practices? When we think of Indian women's clothing, sarees and salwars and ghungats often come to mind. But what about the religious clothing, the cultural clothing, the ones whose traditions and dress tell equally rich stories? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to All About Her. And in today's episode, we have Dress Codes in Religion, Chapter 3, White Veils and Saffron Robes. In India today, about 2.3% of the population are Christians, and around 0.7% are Buddhist. Their numbers may be smaller compared to the Hindus or Muslims, but their clothing tradition carries centuries of history, faith, and culture. Picture this: a church bell rings in Kerala, and a woman steps into the sanctuary in a white sari with a golden border, her head gently covered with a kasavu cloth. This is the traditional Chattayam Munda style of Kerala's Syrian Christian woman. Simple, graceful, and deeply rooted in heritage. In another corner of India, in Gujarat, a young Christian woman walks into the church in Western attire, confident, free, blending with the global style. For many women here, especially in cities like Ahmedabad and Surat, Western clothes are not just fashion, but a statement of independence. Dresses, skirts, and salwar kameez are all common, reflecting both global influence and local comfort. But in Mizoram, in the northeast, the story is little different. Women here step into church wrapped in their traditional puan, a hand-woven skirt paired with a blouse decorated in bold patterns of red, black, or green. It is not a matter of religious command, but of cultural pride. And if you travel further south to Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, you will see another pattern. In these churches, women usually wear saris or salwar kameez, with the younger women preferring mostly the salwar kameez, but with a dupatta. Sleeveless blouses are still looked down upon in many congregations because it is seen as indecent. Here, clothing is less about personal preference and more about modestly blending in with the expectations of the community. From saris in Uttar Pradesh to salwar kameez in Andhra to puan skirts in Mizoram, the attire of Christian women in India mostly mirrors the region they belong to. Their faith may unite them, but their clothing resonates with their culture and tradition. If there is one image that unites Christian women in India, it is the bride. It's a very typical scene. A bride gliding down the aisle dressed in a white gown or an off-white sari, veil flowing, bouquet in hand, the color white, timeless, global, powerful. But why white? Since Queen Victoria wore it in 1800s, white has symbolized purity, innocence, and spiritual devotion. In the Bible, white is tied to holiness and righteousness. For Indian Christian brides, it has become both a spiritual choice and a cultural aspiration. Whether she is a Goan bride in satin, a Mangalorean bride in silk, or a Bombay bride in lace, that moment of walking in white is one of India's most moving traditions. Nuns, women who dedicate their lives completely to God and to service. They live in convents, take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and spend their days in prayer, teaching, or helping the poor. And the purity of those vows is reflected in what they wear. The nun's habit is simple robes of black or white, with veils covering their heads. Black symbolizes humility and detachment from the world, while white represents purity and renewal. For a nun, her clothing is not just fabric, but a visible declaration of her lifelong devotion. For ordinary churchgoers too, modesty is a main priority. Some women cover their heads with the sarees pallu during prayer. Others follow 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 9, choosing modest clothing over flashy ornaments. The idea is simple. Clothes should never distract from faith. So for Christian women in India, attire is not one rule, one uniform. It's a spectrum. Sometimes it's Western outfits, dresses, skirts, trousers. Sometimes it's sari or salwar kameez. Over 2000 years ago, in the time of Buddha, women dressed in layers of flowing cloth, a long wrap around the waist called the antarya, a soft shawl over the shoulders known as utarya, and a simple chest band, the stanapatta. Nothing stitched, nothing fancy, just cloth draped and tucked with grace. These early garments, worn by ordinary women and Buddhist followers alike, would slowly evolve over centuries into one of India's most iconic dresses, the sari. But Buddhist nuns, known as bhikkhuni, wrapped themselves in something very different. It is a robe of deep saffron, red, or ochre, falling in the heavy folds called the kasaya. Three pieces of cloth layered together. It wasn't stitched to impress, nor designed for beauty. It was plain, humble, and powerful. A declaration. I have left behind desire. I belong to Sangha. Even today, if you walk into a monastery in India or across Asia, you will see these robes. Sometimes in little softer shades of pink or white, still carrying the same quiet message of renunciation and devotion. When it comes to everyday wear, Buddhist lay women don't follow a single uniform style. A Buddhist woman in Maharashtra may wear a Nawari sari at her wedding, while in Ladakh, women wrap themselves in the heavy woolen robes, turquoise studded headdresses, layered skirts to keep them warm from the Himalayan winds. Elsewhere in India, Buddhist women simply dress like their neighbors. Saris, salwar kameez, modern outfits. Christian women are also similar in that way. Outside of the church or any special ceremonies, their clothing blends right into mainstream. In Kerala, it might be a traditional sari. In Mizoram, the woven puan. And in cities like Delhi or Mumbai, our regular jeans and tops. Like the Buddhists, Christian women attire reflects their region and culture first and their religion second. Apart from the ideal white wedding, there are Christian weddings that overlap with Hindu customs. In many South Indian Christian communities, brides wear red or golden silk saris rather than white gowns. And their ceremonies include the tying of the tali or a minu, which is a pendant or a necklace similar to the Mangal Sutra. Even rituals like applying turmeric or coconut paste before the wedding, blessing bangles, match Hindu tradition that have been adapted into Christian life. One difference that stands out is veiling. A Pew survey found out that only about 30% of the Buddhist women in India cover their heads, compared to the 59% of Hindu women and 89% of Muslim women. Among the Christians too, veiling is not universal. In some congregations, women do draw their saris pallu over their heads in prayer, while in others, especially in urban churches, No head covering is expected at all. So, whether it is a nun's black habit, a Buddhist nun's saffron robe, a Christian bride's red silk sari, or a white gown flowing down the aisle, clothing often crosses the boundaries of faith. It tells a story not just of religion, but of regional culture and its history. These shared traditions are what make India's fabric so unique. So, what do these clothes tell us? Christian and Buddhist women in India remind us that faith is not always about strict dress codes. For Christians, it's about modesty and reverence, but shaped by culture. For Buddhists, it's about simplicity, robes for nuns, but freedom for laywomen. And yet, they both carry something so profound, clothing as devotion, not compulsion. Because at the end of the day, what matters is not whether you cover your head, wear white, or wrap a robe. What matters is why you do it, whether it's faith, respect, culture, or simply choice. So here's the question we leave with today. In a world where faith, culture, and fashion constantly intersect, do our clothes define us, or do we define what our clothes mean?